Welcome back, friends, and we have finally made it. It's hard to believe that we are actually here, the final week of the regular season for 2025. I can't even believe it. But hey, it was a 45-20 win over Maryland this past weekend, and this is the week of the game. Michigan has done, and it's looked dirty. They've done the dirty work, and it hasn't always been clean. It hasn't been pretty, but they are 9-2 through 11 games. And coming back from Southern California, we all knew it was playoff mode. You talk to the players, you talk to the coaches. It's playoff mode all the way into the game to give yourself a chance to get into the college football playoffs. That is on top of the fact that it is the game. It is the Ohio State. And I can't wait. I'm going to bring in my partner now. Before I go off the rails, that's Mr. Brian Boesch. Brian, I know it's a busy time of year for you with basketball, and you're traveling around. We still have had football games, but now this is the week. This is the one it all builds up to.
The only thing I'm going to say, John, did you trademark your "the" there, or do we have to?
No, I left out the TM just to, I guess, I don't know, troll them. I don't know.
Here's the thing.
If you say the, it's okay. If you say the, now all of a sudden, same word, just pronounced a little bit differently. Now you gotta kiss the ring.
Well, it's always important. When you say the game, I always want to make sure I emphasize game and not the, because that might, might be.
I know it's and most people who do listen know that every time I say the TM Ohio State is usually how I approach this, but I'm sick and tired of it. I'm irritated. I have a sense of anger that is building up until Saturday, and I'm going to try and put it aside. I do want to say this real quick for everyone that's watching or listening this entire week, even if you listen to, if you're going to wait and you want to listen to this on Friday, pair it with the keys to the game and the locker room speech. You want to do back-to-back episodes. I do want to sit here and tell you guys, thank you. This is a week of Thanksgiving, and I want to say thank you to everyone that listens faithfully all year long. 52 weeks a year. We'd never miss a week, and I hear it all the time about the camaraderie that Brian and I have, and people really enjoy listening to it. They have some fun. We like to have a little bit of fun here. So thank you for listening. Thank you for the support that you have given us over the years. And, thanks for getting fired up for this week.
Echo all of that. I mean, it's crazy. This is episode 560 of this thing. And remember, in the early days of this podcast, that was in the tail end of what was a drought. And Michigan was trying to find a way to beat Ohio State. Then the Michigan legends, Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Ross, Hassan Haskins, and others helped that end in 2021. I mean, shoot, back in like 18-19, we were doing a Thanksgiving food draft in this podcast. That's where it was. And now where it's become. But here's the reality, John.
Well, what I love. Using the year 18-19. That's when it might have been when it originally started with Brandstatter.
Yeah, I know. 100%.
18-19.
Oh, wow.
Well, and he's been doing it for a long time.
If you missed the Jim Brandstatter podcast when we attributed John, you can go back and listen to that. I didn't mean to catch you mid sip there, John, but no, that was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And in all seriousness, as we get into this, and we'll go into number one on our 7 from 77, but I want to make a point kind of broadly and then kind of get your thoughts. What happened last year was so sweet, and it's a unique feeling as a sports fan when you go down when no one expected Michigan to win and get the job done. But the game is at its best when it's like this. Big Ten implications, national championship implications. That's where it is. And I'm curious from your standpoint, in terms of rivalry vacuum implications. You've prepared for this game as a player after a Michigan loss, and you've prepared for this game with several wins in the back pocket. How does the approach change, the belief, the mindset? How does that compare coming off a loss or where this team is right now, having just pulled off one of the biggest upsets in the rivalry's history and now trying to get back to where they think they should be in the college football playoff with a win?
Well, each year is its own animal. And, going into the season, and, a lot of times, right? And in my time, it was Ohio State coming in as the number one team, and you've got all this talent, these 4- and 5-star guys, and Michigan had come into it. It was, 8-3 some years, or 7-3, and trying to figure out, can Michigan even stay on the field? There's a certain mindset that you go into a game when you are, you're given no chance. And that was pretty much the feeling, both, 95, 96, both of those years. And in 96, and everybody talks about the comparisons between 96 and last year's 2024 game. And the outcomes were obviously very similar. Michigan won both. The score was very similar. And then this year, you're going into it not as big of an underdog. And you look at it, and we'll do this throughout the course of the show, but offense better than last year. Defense, started to really find their stride, but maybe not the top end talent of the Mason Grahams, the Kenneth Grants, I know Will didn't play last year in this game, but like there was that presence, and Michigan doesn't have that presence this year. But the preparation going into this game it always starts the day after the last one ends. And the question never ends, right? What are you doing to beat Ohio State today? And so it starts on the Sunday after you beat Ohio State, because, again, it's going to be a brand new animal. And whether it's what you're doing in the workouts, what you're doing in recovery, what you're doing in nutrition, it all is a focus, because we know what rides on this game, not just the rivalry, but it is generally, as you mentioned, Big Ten, college football playoffs now. There's a lot of implications, and that's what makes part of this game so great. The other part is just the disdain that you have for Columbus, for Ohio State, for the residents of the state of Ohio, that ugly outline that you see on bumper stickers and everything that means, and is associated with the state of Ohio. There's a disdain for, and it builds all season, all year long. And it's in the off season, you're watching film, and it doesn't matter if you're coming off a win or you're looking forward to this game or if you're coming off a loss. It is building the book on the opponent. And it could be the matchup that you're facing. It could be the entire defense. It could, as an offensive lineman, I'm looking at the front seven, and I'm paying attention to the secondary, but you're building the book on that individual player. And then when the season starts and Ohio State plays Texas, and you're looking at it going, okay, what's it look like this year? New defensive coordinator, new players. You start adding to that book all season long, whether you are physically writing things down or you're just watching the game and you're watching your position and you're making those mental notes. Then you get the first bye week. You get a chance to catch up on more film and actually write some of those things down. The second bye week comes. And yeah, you're always preparing for the next opponent, as we've talked about with the players, but there's always this constant buildup. And it doesn't matter if you're coming off a win or a loss, the preparation never changes.
So number 2 on our 7 from 77. Thought it was interesting how Sharon Moore put this on our radio network pregame before the Maryland win. When asked about the growth, the most growth for the team since the loss to USC, quote, the belief in what we do, who we are, end quote. So much of what Michigan does and who Michigan is, all of that revolves around this game, preparing for it, like you said, 364 days a year. With that being said, has your belief in Michigan's ability to beat Ohio State increased, decreased, or stayed the same from that USC loss to now? Because Michigan has won every one of those games, but it has not been easy.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, hasn't it? It's and we've talked about the Purdue game. We've watched and sat through 5 turnovers against Northwestern, and then you look at and it was a really good performance against Maryland, but there are still some ups and downs. And I have a lot of confidence that this team, and some of it goes with the team that was last year that went down to Columbus and came away with a win. There's a lot of players on this team that know what that looked like, what that felt like, what the buildup was. And experience matters in this game. It really does. And And then you look at this year's team and how it compares to last year's team. Is it a better offense? Yes. But, and I just mentioned experience matters. There are 3 guys that are playing and starting on that offensive line that did not play in this game. There's a quarterback. There's a running back. There are wide receivers. There are defensive players, but we're talking about the offense right now that didn't play in this game. However, those offensive linemen were in the stadium. They know what it looked like, felt like, smelled like, tasted like, that victory. And you've got a quarterback that grew up in the state of Michigan. He was raised. This is why the base of recruiting for the Michigan and Ohio State rosters should be from Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, because they know they have been raised on Big Ten rivalries. And if you grew up in the state of Michigan like Bryce Underwood did, there's no way to avoid it. You see everything that goes into this. So he was born and raised into this rivalry. So offensively, I feel like this is a better team. And they're more explosive, more productive. And then you look at the defensive side of things. And I already mentioned, you don't have some of those superstar players, but you can really see this defense start to play as one. 11 guys all on the same page. So my belief in being able to win, I don't know that it's more, it's certainly not less. It's probably more the same, because you have to go into this game believing that you're going to win every damn year.
Well, it's tough to follow that, but let's have a word from Meijer, the presenting sponsor of In the Trenches, the 2025 Michigan football season, and hundreds of teams across the Midwest. Hey, if anybody knows what they're getting with John Jansen on the game week, it is Meijer. Tell them about him, Meijer.
Yeah, hey, with your help, we can provide meals to our hungry neighbors through Simply Give. And with just $10, you can provide meals to local pantries serving families in need. Look for Simply Give donation cards at checkout or online. Together, we can provide a helping for those in need. Join us in our mission to help feed our hungry neighbors, because whenever you shop Meijer, you help people in our community to work, to play, to live, and to learn. Learn more at MeierCommunity.com. Meijer is a proud presenting sponsor and fan of the 2025 Michigan football season.
And that season has reached the game coming up in Ann Arbor on Saturday. We'll get your keys on the audio version of Thursday's In the Trenches, but overall on Ohio State, let's start with their offense, led by truly one of the individual stories of college football. There were a ton of names at quarterback that people were talking about, Heisman Trophy candidates, potential number 1 overall picks in the NFL draft, and Julian Sayin has outperformed all of those and many, many more. We'll see on their wide receivers. Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate did not play this past weekend against Rutgers. Your thoughts on Sayin, this offense as a whole?
Julian Sayin, when you watch him against Texas, you can see the potential that everybody talked about when he committed to Alabama. Then he eventually transfers to Ohio State. You saw all the potential, but you didn't get a chance. And I think, and I don't want to give too much credit to their coaching staff, but some credit is due. They've done a really nice job of progressing him. Now, he is obviously not a freshman, first year starting, but he's had a chance to sit and learn and watch. And now all of a sudden it's his turn. And they didn't throw the entire playbook at him. They didn't expect him to start off the season as a Heisman Trophy winner. And you look at their running back, Bo Jackson, in that game against Texas, he was a non-factor, but they've brought him along as well. Now he is their feature back. So the two of them have really grown together. And, Jeremiah Smith, we saw what he did last year. He's been a huge part of this offense. Carnell Tate, they've got talent upon talent upon talent at the wide receiver position, and they always have. But this is an offense that continues to improve throughout the course of the season. And Julian Sayin has done a really good job of protecting the football. He doesn't put the football at risk. And quite honestly, the coaches have done a really nice job in play calling of not putting him in position to turn the ball over. But there have been other times too where, and their schedule, we'll get into all of this, but I don't know how much they've actually been tested since that game. Because when they played Penn State was a shell of what you thought it was going to be this year. Washington, that was a good performance against a talented Washington team. But again, you're not talking about the top end teams in the country. So there are some question marks about this team, not because they haven't gone out and just taken care of business, but because they haven't played the top end talent across the country. So for them, I know that if I were them, how would I be looking at this game? It's a showcase game. It's a chance for them to make a statement about who they are, why they deserve to be number one, why the accolades are legitimate. And for Michigan, it's a chance to test them and themselves to say, yeah, we don't think that you've been actually through the fires like we have. You didn't go to Norman. You didn't go to USC. You didn't do some of the things that we have done. And now Michigan lost those games. But how much have they learned? This is Michigan's chance to go out there and prove the same thing. The things that you've been saying about, hey, there's not an explosive offense, or it's not dynamic enough, or they don't have the top end talent on defense. This is also Michigan's opportunity to stake their claim as, yeah, we are, and we deserve to be a playoff team.
Yeah, and along those lines, number 4 on our 7 from 77, the sign of a team that does have real national championship possibilities, similar to Michigan in 2023. Remember, Michigan's season really did not start until November that year. Michigan did not play a whole lot in the way of true talent. Ohio State did schedule Texas. Texas, who knows how good they are. Yeah. But defensively, Ohio State hasn't given up more than 16 points all season in a game. They've surrendered 84 points overall. So if you haven't played the best, you've got to win pretty handily. And certainly defensively, you've got to suffocate. That's what Ohio State's done. How have they done it? Well,
they've done it with pressure on quarterbacks. Caden Curry, who's a senior, is a guy that stepped in and played extremely well. You look at their linebackers. Sonny Styles is a sideline to sideline guy. They use him in a lot of different ways. All of their linebackers, they're downhill guys, their speed. The secondary is obviously the headliner for this Ohio State defense. And, Caleb Downs is another one of those guys. He transferred in, and he has been everything that Ohio State has hoped for and more. This secondary plays, and I've made this comparison before about a secondary when we've been talking about Michigan's secondary. They play like an offensive line is supposed to play, with communication. And when you watch them move, they move in concert with one another. And it's if you just take away the helmets, the uniforms, all that ugly stuff, and you're just watching them as a football team, they do a tremendous job of working together and communicating together and having each other's back. So this is a very talented and dangerous defense.
So number 5 on our 7 from 77, even in this 12-team playoff era where, again, last year Michigan went to Columbus, won, and then Ohio State rattled off 4 straight and won the national championship, there's still so much in the way of conversation that goes into this game. And that's especially true around coaches, legacy conversations, job security conversations, big meetings the day after the game in Columbus, what happened last year. Ryan Day was on the hot seat, according to a lot of fans and prognosticators and college football commentators last year. Sharon Moore's huge impact. We've talked about it on this podcast. Jim Harbaugh put Sharon Moore on the Ohio State subject for the entire year. Sharon was watching film when he was a tight ends coach, then an offensive line coach, then an offensive coordinator on Ohio State every single day. He would sleep at the office the week of the game. He told that to us before. Think about Wink Martindale, the masterclass he put together last year with Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham leading the way up front for Michigan. There's a unique storyline with Matt Patricia and fans who are also Lions fans here in the great state of Michigan. That is an opportunity for Lions, Wolverines fans. So the coaching storylines, there are plenty. What are the ones most juicy to you?
Well, there's a lot of juice to squeeze.
Lathering it up.
Oh, boy. Where do I start? Well, let's start at the top, and it's Ryan Day standing there watching the ruckus that happened at the end of the game, and Jason Avant running around the field, and Ryan Day standing there just befuddled, like he has no idea. He's kind of standing there like I was, like, how'd that happen? And I was, obviously, we were cheering, and he was standing there with just this stunned look on his face. And so, yeah, I think that's where the conversation starts. And it all comes down. I'll get into this more in the keys to the game, but is Ohio State going to play their game, or are they going to try and beat Michigan at Michigan's game? That's going to be the big question, because that's what it was last year. Like, they wanted to come in and run the football and run it right at a top 5 pick in Mason Graham and a top 12 pick in Kenneth Grant. And it was the masterclass that Wink Martindale had put together. And you talk about an NFL defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale, and now you've got kind of the same storyline for Ohio State with good old Matty P and what he is trying to do with this defense. And you see a lot of the same concepts. So it's interesting, because I think Michigan is in a very unique position to face Ohio State, with having the experience of going against a similar defense every single game or every single day at practice for the last 2 years. And with Matt Patricia, there's no doubt that of what he can do as a defensive coordinator. We saw it with New England, and Lions fans were hoping to see that. They saw it for about the first half of the first game of the Jets game, and then it was all downhill. So there is a lot of animosity for Ryan Day and keeping him where he's been, and that's always been second to whoever is coaching Michigan for the past 4 years. And there is a lot of animosity towards Matt Patricia because of what he has or has not done in the state of Michigan and for Detroit. So there's a lot of juice heading into this game, and it's going to be, I know that Ryan Day wants to prove that, hey, he can beat Michigan and win a national title. Matty P wants to come in and show that his defense does work in the state of Michigan, and that he can go out there and create and wreak havoc for a young Michigan offense. And so the juiciest storyline, it's probably Ryan Day. The second one is Matt Patricia. But you know what? I don't care. I don't care what the storyline is on the other sideline. I really don't care. And Michigan football fans, Michigan football players, we don't care what they're doing on their sideline. It's all about Michigan, and it's about Grant Newsome getting those 5 guys to work together for one day. There's only one day left in this football season, and we need the best performance from those 5 guys. And then if Jordan Marshall can go, that's great, but you're also going to need Bryson Cusdahl, and we've seen it. We've said it. The expectation is for the position, and he filled that position as a Michigan running back against Maryland. And then you look on the defensive side of things with Wink Martindale putting together that master class. How does he get that front 7 with Jay Sean Barham, Cole Sullivan, Jimmy Rolder, and the rest of that defensive front to play at the level and the expectation that we saw last week? I'm getting fired up, and this is going to be an epic matchup. The only difference in this game, and if you strip away the numbers, you strip away the helmets, is the fact that it's going to be in Ann Arbor. And there's 111,000 screaming Michigan fans ready to celebrate, and it's an opportunity for this team to do it in front of the Michigan faithful.
The one reason you care about the storylines and what is the biggest storyline is because the biggest storyline in coaching in this game normally resides with the coach who's coming off the loss. And the goal is to make Ryan Day and Matt Patricia this time next year be the top storyline, because how many times for so many years was that understandably, fairly Jim Harbaugh? And then he won. That's why we care. And it's incumbent upon, hey, the expectations of position, right? At running back, at offensive line, in the rivalry.
I'm getting worked up.
The expectation is the position.
Getting a lather going.
Well, in that case, let's do another read.
Oh. Yeah. Here we go.
Before we go to a little college football talk, before we got some more video-only stuff for you on Michigan, Ohio State, we're thankful for our friends Susan and Will Bramer. You know they're fired up over at Laurentide Winery for this game, and they're proud sponsors here on In the Trenches.
They are. We're glad to have them, and let's talk a little wine as we get ready for this game. Artisanal and award-winning wines from 100% Leelanau grapes have made Laurentide Winery a Michigan favorite. founded, as you mentioned, by Susan and Will Bramer. They're proud to be family-owned since 2010 and grateful to be a part of our celebrations, dinners, and game day traditions. Visit the tasting room or explore the wines at laurentidewinery.com. Your patronage helps support their College of Engineering Fund. Thank you for raising your glass with Laurentide.
No doubt. All right, number 6, Big Ten talk. I want to break down, I want to talk about Oregon. They probably locked in. Well, I shouldn't say they probably did. They took a big step toward their CFP spot with a win over USC, 42-27. Trojans at 3-loss. They are done. So Michigan's path to the Big Ten title game, a win over Ohio State, and a Washington home victory over Oregon. We all know how bitter Michigan-Ohio State is. Washington, Oregon's only like one tier down. They do not like each other up there in the Pacific Northwest. So if those two things, the two most likely things, happen for Michigan to get there, Michigan could also get there if Purdue knocks off Indiana. But how about this? Let's go true chaos here, right? Say Indiana loses directions to the stadium and Washington knocks off Oregon. If Michigan beats Ohio State, Michigan and Ohio State would play again next week in the Big Ten championship game. Now, that's a Purdue over Indiana setup. I'm not counting my stars there, but there is an outlet. There is an option, but the cleanest path is beat Ohio State and Washington knocks off Oregon.
I tell you what, I don't know how religious you are. I know I have some religion in my background. We all pray to the football gods. If there is anything in this world that we could possibly have, that the football gods would grant us, is the opportunity to beat Ohio State twice, not just in one calendar year, but in the span of 8 days. Please, baby Jesus, allow us the opportunity, and all the football gods, if you're listening, to be able to have the opportunity to play against Ohio State twice in 8 days. That would be unbelievable.
And don't lose that line, because then it could be 3.
Oh,
could be 3 in a month and a half span.
Hey, let's take it one game at a time.
Yeah, let's not pour too much. Let's not pour too much into thinking Purdue will beat Indiana. Let's lock in on the Buckeyes. We'll save the rematch for the CFP. How about that?
That's fine.
Washington did look good. They knocked off UCLA at the Rose Bowl 48-14. Damon Williams, tough out. That is not a gimme by any stretch for Oregon going on the road to Seattle. That will be a fun one to watch, and it'll be a lot more fun if Michigan's able to beat Ohio State. All right, number 7 on our 7 from 77. Let's talk national. The two relevant games from the CFP and the SEC this past weekend: Oklahoma knocking off Missouri in a defensive slugfest 17-6. Vandy did what it needed to do to stay alive, blasting Kentucky 45-17. All the other contenders won bye games or were off. I want to ask you about Ole Miss, because they are at Mississippi State on Friday. A little bit more than a touchdown favorite, so they're not expected to go in there and blow out their rival, because the Bulldogs are playing for a bowl game. That's the Egg Bowl. That's a very unique rivalry in its own right. But that and the Lane Kiffin storyline, where the Ole Miss AD basically saying we're going to get our decision on Saturday, reports of lavish offers from the likes of LSU and Florida. How do you digest all of this in the midst of what is an all-timer Ole Miss season?
I think this is a 100% crime against the Ole Miss players. And I mean, Lane Kiffin has done a tremendous job in his time at Ole Miss. And he has built something, and they were ahead of the game. They were one of the first to utilize and maximize NIL. Their program in that regard is light years ahead of some other SEC schools, a lot of schools around the country. And he has done a really nice job of utilizing the transfer portal, of recruiting, of developing players. And for those players to have to go through this week, and I don't know how much he is talking to his players about what is next. I hope that he is 100% straightforward and honest with those guys. He'll get the best performance in the Egg Bowl if those players aren't sitting there wondering, am I gonna enter the transfer portal because my coach is leaving, or if I want to stay here because this is the school I committed to, this is the one where I am making a bunch of money and we're having a lot of success. Who's the next coach? Do I fit in? Does he even want me around? Like, all of those things are in the minds of 18 to 22-year-olds. And the fact that the way college football is set up, that you are having off-season conversations, the off-season happens in the regular season. The NFL has it set up that you can't interview coaches until the playoffs. You can't accept the job until later. And it's just, there needs to be a massive overhaul in this area. How it gets there, I don't know. Do we ever get there? Probably not. But the drama this week, and we heard, he went on the Pat McAfee show and said, I love it here. He was never directly asked the question, are you going to be back? And I don't even know if he could answer it at that time. But he did address, the referendum. And he said, well, there was no referendum. And then the AD comes out with the statement that we will know as soon as the Egg Bowl is done what the future of our quarterback is. It's outside looking in, it's wildly entertaining. But I always look at it from a player's perspective, having sat in their seats going, this is an absolutely terrible situation. One of the biggest games of their lives is happening on Friday. And they are left to wonder what their future looks like. And we talked about it with our players. How do you prepare for Northwestern? How do you prepare for Purdue? How do you prepare for Maryland? When you know they're lesser teams, but you've got this behemoth matchup at the end of the season. And Michigan has done a magnificent job of keeping the focus on where it should be, and that is the task at hand. I think it's even immensely harder for those Ole Miss players to focus on a great rivalry matchup, a historic matchup, and with the cloud hanging over their head of what's next. So it's going to be a great matchup. And whether it's Purdue trying to upend Indiana, if it's Mississippi State trying to upend Ole Miss, like, this is what makes college football great, because upsets do happen, and it will make the college football playoff committee lives very interesting if any one of these happens. And so it's exciting to think about what this weekend brings in college football.
Think about the impact that the win last year in Columbus had for Michigan, yet still Ohio State went on and win the national championship. There is a chance for Mississippi State to end Ole Miss's greatest season since maybe the 60s and see the head coach who built that up go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because, listen, when it's Michigan and Ohio State, there are few settings in college football that have more or as much juice to it. But there is a realistic scenario where Ole Miss wins this game, signs Lane Kiffin to an extension, and goes deep into the college football playoff, maybe wins the national championship. There's also an outlet where they lose this game, miss the playoff, play on December 31st in a game that's not a part of the playoff, and has to find a new head coach. That is the wide range of spectrum in what is one of the great seasons for them to this point in program history. That is unfathomable.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't imagine being a player in that situation. And now sitting where I'm sitting, it would be very hard to be a parent of a player, knowing what is going on and, the commitment that you made to that school, that coach. And it's a completely different era of college football, but it doesn't change human nature and human emotions.
100%. We will talk plenty about that next week, hopefully getting ready for maybe a trip to Indianapolis for Michigan. Other rivalry matchups. So Texas A&M goes to Texas. Aggies are unbeaten. Texas needs a win and some chaos to have any sort of chance. Aggies would go to the SEC title game with a win, as would Alabama. The Tide are at Auburn. Also Georgia facing Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets probably on the outside looking in now. Well, definitely now. But even with a win over Georgia, they might be done because they got blasted by Pitt. Also on Saturday, LSU at Oklahoma. Tigers, they're floundering. They almost lost to Western Kentucky this past week. Vanderbilt goes to Tennessee. So, John, there is a scenario where the SEC has a 12-0 team in A&M, 11-1 teams in Ole Miss and Georgia, and then 10-2, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Vandy, with Bama going to the SEC championship game. So there is a chance at 6 CFP teams, or at least 6 CFP teams that are right there in that conversation. What intrigues you most other than Ole Miss within the Southeastern Conference?
Oh boy, that's such a tough question to answer because of all of the different things that are just simply possible. And so I think it's, from a Michigan perspective, you need some of those teams to be eliminated, and because I think we all believe that if Michigan beats the number 1 team in the country in Ohio State, that'll be the best win that anybody has on their resume all in the entirety of college football. But they lost at Oklahoma, they lost at USC. So I would like to remove all doubt if you're able to get an Ole Miss loss against Mississippi State, or an Alabama loss to Auburn, something that makes it definitive that Michigan gets into the college football playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think Michigan's probably in. I'd feel pretty confident in over 10-2 Vandy. I know Miami is ranked behind Notre Dame, but I don't think you could put 10-2 Michigan in over 10-2 Oklahoma, because Oklahoma won that game, and it wasn't a nail biter down the stretch. Michigan was hanging around that game, but Oklahoma controlled it. So yeah, there's going to need to be some help. ACC wise, feels more like a one bid league because of that Pitt win at Georgia Tech. It was 42-28, but it was really never even that close. Pitt 6-1 in the ACC, but they don't control their own destiny. As I mentioned, in the SEC, it's A&M and Alabama, who, if they win, they go to Atlanta. Charlotte would have the classic ACC rivalry that is the Virginia Cavaliers and the SMU Mustangs. All Virginia has to do is knock off Virginia Tech. SMU would have to beat Cal, and then it's that matchup.
I hate college conference expansion. I absolutely hate it. We haven't even talked about the Big 12 yet.
Oh man, I mean, at least BYU kind of feels like they should be in the same league as a Texas Tech or Utah or whatever. But anywho, it feels like a one bid league. The question is, can Miami make a real push at this? The crazy thing is they beat Notre Dame, and they might need a Notre Dame loss to try to sneak in there. They've got to go to Pitt. That'll be a good win if they can get it. I mean, here's the craziest part. What if SMU, and we're talking before we get the CFP rankings, but there's a non-zero chance that the ACC is a 0 bid league if some of these other group of fives can swoop up there and say SMU wins the next 2. Are we guaranteed them to be above those teams? Probably, but it's not guaranteed. It's weird.
It is weird. And I mean, just from a chaos perspective, it's entertaining. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that it's good for college football. I don't. So yeah. It's where we are right now. It's the world we're living in as we adjust to expansion and the leveling of playing fields and the spreading out of talent through the transfer portal and NIL, where you're going to have a lot of situations like this, especially in the ACC and the Big 12.
Frankly, I think this is better for college football if this was truly every conference champion got a bid in like a 24-team playoff, and we were like the basketball NCAA tournament. It's never going to get there. No. So yeah, I mean, it's in a lot of ways turning into the SEC Big Ten Invitational, where you got to earn it from there. But yeah, I mean, the ACC is in a tough spot. And credit for however it's happened. The sequencing from the Southeastern Conference has been impressive. The fact that they could have 6 teams with 10 wins. I mean, that's hard to do. And it's why I never understood why there was any sort of SEC interest at all in a 4-4-2-2-1. I know they kind of shoved it away, but if you're the SEC, you want as many at-larges as possible.
Yeah. And I mean, even if they did the mathematical equation model, it's they've done it. And this is where why I don't like conference expansion is you have a lot of 10-2 teams that you're trying to compare in the same conference that didn't play each other.
Yeah.
And that's where, and even the ones that do.
Understandable reason to have a 10-2 team that beat another 10-2 team be behind them in the rankings. because Miami has not earned enough of oomph. Now, again, sequencing's probably helped Notre Dame because they've just been able to keep climbing and keep moving up the rankings. They lost their first 2 games of the season. But as much as I appreciate head-to-heads, and I think that needs to matter, I can also see the argument of why Notre Dame is ahead of Miami.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's and it goes to what is the committee thinking about? Are they taking the best 12 teams, or best 11 teams with the group of 5 that at this time of the year, because Notre Dame would be one of those teams, or are they looking at it as, well, who was best week 1 versus who was best after week 13? And like you are allowed to get better, but are you allowed? Can you get good enough to overcome 2 losses to start the season? That's going to be the big question about Notre Dame.
100%. Big 12, BYU took care of business at Cincinnati. So it does feel like we're going to get a rematch as long as BYU knocks off UCF 5-6, the fighting Scott Frosts going out west, and Texas A&M needs to win at 4-win West Virginia. If Texas Tech and BYU win, they're in their championship game. So we'll kind of talk about that in context with everything. It's down to likely those 2 teams in the Big 12. Utah's really good, but they've lost twice. They've lost to both of these teams. So I don't know how, even if, whoever loses in the Big 12 championship game, I don't know how you could put them ahead, especially because I know the BYU-Utah game was close, but I think Texas Tech spanked Utah. You certainly can't put Utah in over them. The head-to-head has to matter in some way. So when you look at the 12 teams, the CFP, the SEC's range is probably 4-6. Big Ten's now probably 3-4, with Michigan being that potential 4th. ACC, I'm not going to say 0. We'll say 1 or 2. Same for the Big 12. You got the group of 5 team, and then potentially Notre Dame. There has a chance to be some real debates, right? Who's better, 10-2 Oklahoma or 10-2 Texas Tech, or 11-2 in that case? Notre Dame at 10-2. I feel like they're probably in if they win, but it's not a guarantee. How does Vanderbilt slide in? Does Michigan? We talked with Michael Cohen on the video portion last week. He was very confident that if Michigan wins out, they're in. But certainly in terms of chaos, Michigan hasn't gotten it to 100% vibes if they win this game.
No, they haven't. And, in the Big 12, if it is going to be that Texas Tech BYU matchup, if BYU wins that game, and I don't know that they're a 2-team league, because I do think that I in the end, I think Texas Tech takes care of business the way that they performed in that first matchup at BYU, but now it'll be on a neutral field. I think Texas Tech ultimately wins it. And if they do, is the Big 12 a one bid team or league, and is the ACC a one big league? And then all of a sudden you're looking at getting in a maximum number of SEC and Big 10 schools.
The question will be, how much does the committee value the emphaticness of Texas Tech's wins? Because they did not play anybody in the non-con. Their biggest game was Oregon State. They won at 45-14. Take out the loss to Arizona State, and they have wins by, I'll make sure my math is right here, in the league, 24, 24, 25, 42, 23, 22. That was the BYU game, and 39. So they beat Utah by 24. They beat BYU by 22. And outside of their loss, they've won every game. Was it by 20 plus? Did I say a single one? Yeah, by 20 plus. So they've at least shown that, hey, they can beat 2 who will be top 15 teams emphatically, and then they won all their other games by a lot. I think they're probably in, but if it is BYU winning and they win by 10, 12 points, Greg Sankey's going to be critiquing Texas Tech's resume. Oh, what a time to be alive.
I guess so.
Yeah. All right. Transition time for you. Audio side of things, got a great conversation for you to share. On the video side, we're going to talk with Jon Jansen about his top 5 most important Wolverines in this game. John, I don't know. I didn't really give you much guardrails or clarification, just who you perceive to be. And it was on purpose. I didn't want to just ruin your day, but I did want you to interpret it the way that you interpret things. I was hoping you wouldn't just go, well, Brian, number 5 is left tackle Blake Frazier. Number 4 is left guard Giovanni El Hadi. Number 3 is Greg Crippen.
Yeah. No, and I'm not even going to bend the rules and say that the unit, as it should be, playing as one.
John, we know that you think that the most important thing in everything, including off-season workouts and interviews and press conferences and social media and NIL, we know where you stand. But,
well, so I'll say this.
Yeah.
And I will give 5. And I'm not going to say who was number 1, who's number 5. I'm just going to give you the 5 most important players. But this game, and I think everyone that is listening, everyone that has watched last year, that watched even going back to 21 when Michigan started this 4-game heater against Ohio State, you have to win in the trenches. You have to dominate the line of scrimmage, offensive line and defensive line. And I'll throw the linebackers in there as well. That is the one tenet that if you don't win at the line of scrimmage, you will not win this game. So having said that, one of the guys that I think is the top 5 guys, and I'm just going to pick up one offensive lineman, that's Greg Crippen. When we have watched the biggest runs and, Bryson Cusdall's 19-yard touchdown run, what was it that broke him free? It was Greg Crippen getting up on that linebacker with square shoulders and getting a nice block on him. And then it was, Donovan McCulley, I think it was the wide receiver, being able to get a block downfield. But it all starts up front. And he is the guy that is going to get he's the veteran on that offensive line, along with Gio, but he's in the middle. He connects the left and the right side. He gets everybody going in the right direction. He's going to be dictating where things go in blitz pickup. Who are they identifying as the most dangerous guys? He is the guy that has to play his best game for Michigan to have a chance to win this game. So Cripp is one of them. And
let me stop you. I want to at least have a chance to offer a follow-up, not about disagreeing. I wholeheartedly agree. I'm curious. I mean, Cripp's had such a unique journey at Michigan. He was not the full-time starter last year. He has waited his turn. I mean, if there's anybody on this roster who has had to utilize that question, what are you doing to beat Ohio State today, more than him, I'd like to meet that person, because for so long he's been measuring that against himself in the weight room, on the practice field, waiting for his turn to play.
Yeah, I mean, he is the guy that when you look at modern college football and say, there's not a lot of guys that are going to sit and wait their turn. There's not a lot of guys that are going to sit there and watch, Drake Nugent come in and play in front of him, and watch Oluwatimi come in and play in front of him, and be not okay with it, but go old school and say, I need to do better. I need to work on my set of skills and develop myself so that eventually, come my senior year, I'm going to be the guy that everybody is pointing to, that is talked about on the podcast as one of the top 5 players that has to play. Like, you see those guys leave and they go get paid somewhere else. They go get to play somewhere else. But Cripp has gone completely old school and said, I want a degree from the University of Michigan, and I want to go out there in my senior year and be the center against Ohio State.
Love it. Number 4, your 4th player of importance in the game.
Well, I'm going to talk about the guys on offense first. And having said Cripp, I mean, it's narrowing it down to 5 guys is a tough task. But I'm going to talk about Bryce Underwood next. He, can't turn the ball over. He's got to play his best game. He's got to show that through 11 games, as Chip Lindsey and this coaching staff has put more on his plate. And we've seen him go out in the last, couple of weeks and not make the best decisions, even against Maryland, right? He could have had an interception, should have had an interception against a defense that was great at creating interceptions. He put the ball at risk a few times. He's trying to make plays in the run game and has put the ball on the ground. Even in that game against Maryland, where he is scrambling around, there are still times where I'm in my mind, I am screaming, protect the ball. Either run out of bounds, go down, or if you're fighting for that extra yard, that ball has to be high and tight. Once you pass that line of scrimmage, you are a runner. You are no longer a quarterback. Protect the football. And that, to Bryce, is the number one thing, that he's going to have to protect the football. He's going to have to put this offense in a position to be able to make plays. You're not going to go through another game like we did last year and not have an offense that can't score points or can't even get to 50 yards of offense. Like, it's just not going to happen again. And so I think he is the next guy that has to show that through 11 games, he's learned from the good, the bad, the ugly. And he is going to go out there and control this game. And he doesn't have to go out there and win it. He just has to be a quarterback that's not going to go out there and cost you the game.
I will give you, by the way, I will give you Bryce as the free square, because of course the starting quarterback at Michigan, just like the starting quarterback at Ohio State, are vitally important in this game. So if you have another offensive guy or another, so I'll give you 6. Okay. Bryce is the free square. Does that help narrow down a little bit?
It does. Okay, it gets me to bingo. I get to go right across, diagonal. And so, okay, it makes it easier for me. Andrew Marsh, is another guy. So we got Kripp, we got Marsh, and this is an opportunity for him to go out there and be compared to Jeremiah Smith, be compared to those great receivers that Ohio State has had throughout the course of, 3 decades, but especially in recent history, the guys, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, and you go down the list, right? He has become the number one receiver, cut and dried. It's not even a question. He's the number one target, and a lot of plays. Everyone knows where that ball is going. Bryce knows, the defense knows, and whether it's the first touchdown against Maryland or it's the 12 catches that he had against Northwestern, you know where that ball is going. And he has to be the guy that finds ways to make plays, get open. And how many times have we talked about Michigan just needs that playmaking receiver? Well, now they have it in Andrew Marsh. And so since I have that free square, Marsh, Kripp, I'm going to go RB1. And I don't know who that RB1's going to be. It could be Jordan Marshall. It could be Bryson Cusdahl. It could be both of them. And I think you'll probably, if Jordan Marshall can go, I don't know that we see him be what we saw in the last, when he was healthy, a back that's going to carry it 25 times. I think they really want to get to the way it was with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. It's now going to be Jordan Marshall and Bryson Cusdahl, where you may run the ball 30 to 35 times, but it's not going to be a 25-10 split. It might be a 18-17 split. It might be a 20-15 split, but it's going to be shared, that RB1 position, and they've got to be effective. They have to be effective, especially on first down. You don't want to get into long down and distances against this team. You're going to have to be efficient on first down.
Okay, so those are your offensive guys?
Those are my offensive guys.
So I'll give you the 2 defensive guys who you think are most important in the game.
Oh, wait a second. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 2. I'm still wishing
I'll give you honorable mention opportunity.
Okay,
I'm in a thankful giving mood, so you're fine.
Okay. All right. Boy, this is tough because there's some guys on this defense that are going to have to play their best.
If I can help you with narrowing it down. If you look back, and Jack Miller talked about this on the pregame show back on Saturday, Michigan has won this game over the last 4 years because of what they've done up front. So if you're on the fence about, I'm guessing a guy who's on your list is Derek Moore.
Yes.
I think if I could give you one to push into this top 5/6 with the free space, if he can have a Hutchinson, Ojabo, I know it's a little bit of a different role than what Graham and Grant did, but there's an opportunity here for Derek Moore. He's got the upside to have a 2+ sack game. And to me, Michigan's linebackers have been awesome this year, and we'll see what health-wise looks like in all of it. But, man, if you can get pressure on Julian Sayin, and he's Michigan's best at doing that, I think him having a big game might sway Michigan's defensive performance more than anybody else on that team.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that combination of Hutch and Ojabo, because the two of the guys that I'll mention is Derek Moore and Jayshon Barham.
Yep.
If they can be that dual threat weapon of collapsing the pocket and meet you at the quarterback, that I think will be a huge factor. And I'm not going to pick out a linebacker. And I know Jayshon, okay, definitely,
Sure.
he's a linebacker, but as an edge defender, like the linebacker position, there's a standard that they've set. I expect that. And so I'm not going to say any of those guys' names, because there's a certain standard over 11 games, no matter who has been in there, that whether it's been a 3-year guy, a 4-year guy, it's been freshmen, they have come in and played at an exceptional level. So that's a standard that I expect them to keep. So I'll talk about Derek Moore and Jayshon Barham as the Hutch and Ojabo of this season in Michigan Stadium. If they have a performance similar, I don't expect Derek Moore to be Hutch and the way that he dominated that Ohio State line in 21, but the combination of those guys being able to collapse the pocket on Julian Saint, he has not been under pressure a lot this year. And to test that offensive line of being able to protect them. And we saw it against Maryland for a quarterback that had only been sacked 3 times all season long. They were able to get 3 sacks. They doubled him up in one game. That's going to be vital.
To your point, Hutch and Ojabo were so good that Michigan won that game by 15. They don't have to win the game by 15. Now,
No, just one.
Correct. So they don't have to quite get to that level, but they need to have big impacts in this game. Because listen, I probably said this last year, Ohio State's going to score. Well, I was wrong. They didn't really score much, but they're probably going to score, right? They're probably going to put up something. It just can't be 30 plus. And that's what Michigan's been able to do, even in games where you didn't think their offense could do it. And frankly, I'd put last year in that. I didn't think Michigan might be able to put up 13, but they did. They found a way. The one play, do you have any other honorable mentions you considered strongly on that defensive side? Understanding that, listen, 25 guys are going to have to play well on defense.
Yeah. I mean, so honorable mention, obviously, it's going to have to be Dom Zavada. Not on the defensive side, but he's going to be a guy. Points are at a premium in this game.
I'll tell you this, John. He was the guy I was going to bring up after this, because yes, Dom's important in this game. I think the decision-making around Dom and how he is implemented will be massive. If it's a 41-yard field goal or a 4th and 3, I think you kind of have to go for it. Just flat out, with where he's at right now, after missing another one against Maryland. And obviously it'll depend on what the circumstances are and all of that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can just trot him out there in what is a common kick spot here. Now, honestly, I probably trust him more from 55 plus than I do from 35, just because the likelihood of that going in is lesser for most kickers. If it's 4th and 9 and it's a 36-yard field goal, yes, you got to bring Dom out. But I think there's going to be a spot in this game where Sherrod Moore really has to make a decision of, do I feel more likely to get a 4th and short to medium, or do I think Dom's going to make this kick? Because unfortunately, based on how this has gone, and Dom will always have a special place in this rivalry because he made the game winner last year, and that's important. And you root for the kid. You love the kid. He's a great dude. But decision-making wise for Dom, I think that might be one of the biggest coaching aspects of this game.
I 100% agree. And I hope that he can get the right mental space, and that he becomes a guy that can be a factor in this game in a positive way. But I agree with you. I think it will be the decision of, am I going to go for it on 4th and 3, 4th and 2, given the context of when that decision is made, where they are on the field, and what the score is, as well as how much time is on the clock, all of those different things. But to go back to the honorable mention of defensively, I'll mention 2 guys, Jair Hill and Brandon Hillman. Brandon Hillman has a great reputation in college football and across the Big Ten of, hey, if you're gonna catch the ball in the secondary, you better have your head on a swivel and know exactly where 6 is, where he might be coming from, and do you really want to go up and try and make a spectacular catch, because it might be the last catch you make that game. He is going to drop the hammer. And I think he is a guy that's going to have to play well and have some of those hits, jar some balls loose, and just his presence can cause some incompletions, because you get alligator arms just not wanting to take that hit. The other guy is Jair Hill, and we've seen him all year, the best and the worst of Jair Hill. We saw it against Maryland, the best and the worst of Jair Hill, making some great plays down the field, and other times where he gets turned around, slips, and doesn't make a play. Jair Hill is going to have to be the guy that goes out there, and whether or not they have Jeremiah Smith or anyone else, they have talent at that wide receiver position. They've got talent at quarterback. They're going to be throwing the ball around the field. That's what this offense for Ohio State is really, really good at. Bo Jackson, I don't want to take anything away from him. He's really good too. But Jair Hill is going to have to play his best game.
Well, there's always, it seems like there's sometimes some double vision with moments in this game. Desmond Howard and Charles Woodson, 1969 and 2021, and how that changed the rivalry. Maybe Brandon Hillman could do his best Quentin Johnson on a Emeka Egbuka impression. He's got the firepower. He's got the desire. He's got the hitman in him. And that's an all-timer from 2023. It's going to be fun. We will have John's keys to the game, his locker room speech. I know he might literally go from this to go record those right now, because I know you got the keys ready, and I know you have the lather up, so you're ready to go. But
I felt like he just played a game, and I'm going to need to rejuvenate.
Yes,
to make sure.
Big rejuvenation guy, John.
That the keys are on point, but more importantly, we're going to get fired up at the end of that episode. I'm telling you right now, we're going to get fired up.
This month, you've shown a wide spectrum of emotions this month. I love it. It's great. All right. Happy Thanksgiving to you and the Jansen household. I know Thursday will be a fun day. I'll be along for plenty of basketball out in Las Vegas. 1 down, 2 to go. So, fired up, ready to go. 12-14 the kick. Michigan and Ohio State on Saturday. And I mean, shoot, I won't hold the weather forecast to anything until like Thursday or maybe late Wednesday into Thursday. But boy, I hope it's snowing. I hope it's sleeting. I hope it's raining.
I know. I don't want to ask too much. I already said my prayer to the football gods.
Yeah. You prayed to the football gods for Purdue over Indiana.
if I can say a word to Mother Nature and the football gods, like if it can work in conjunction with each other, and we could have a day that's about 31 degrees high, 25 degrees low, winds variable from about 7 to 8, and a light snowfall, that would be wonderful. That's all we ask for. And a Michigan victory.
All right. For John, I'm Brian. We'll have all the recap for you on the audio version Saturday, and we'll be back, rain or shine, next Tuesday live for Michigan on in the trenches on the Michigan Athletics YouTube feed. All right. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the week. We'll talk to you later in the week.